Oh, hello and welcome to What Are We Talking About with Jamie Jakes, a YouTube channel that I host, and we are here for a very special event. It is our first annual NFL Honors Award ceremony. I am here with two of the funniest, smartest DFW comedians out of Dallas, Fort Worth, who also know about football. It is a bad day to be a beer. It's a bad day to be a seltzer. To my immediate left, it's everybody's favorite host on the program, Kyle Lammert. How are you doing, buddy?
Blessed just to be here. So today, we get to talk about awards for football.
Hell yeah.
And it's a wonderful thing. And I appreciate you so much for having me on the show today.
Okay. You are welcome. Sounds like you're from Louisiana today. I like it. Kind of challenging.
Mentally challenged, yeah.
Yeah. Channeling and mentally challenged, exactly.
Yes.
And this guy to my right, he is an encyclopedia of football knowledge, our resident college scout on the program, Ryan Perrio. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I got to pull out my going out football jersey, formal fits.
Donned his finest.
I got my formal warm moon jersey, for going out. Go out and with the moon, by the light of the moon.
Amen.
Partying.
Amen. Welcome to the casting couch here in South Dallas. And we're going to get started. We're going to get started with the regular season. So how we're going to do it today, how the NFL honors should actually be run is regular season awards and playoff awards. So we'll be judging regular season MVP and playoff MVP, for example. Same thing with rookie of the year. We have some tasty treats along the way, including the most coveted prize on this YouTube channel, the annual Jamie Jakes Fresh Baked Cakes for Goodness Sakes Award, where I award the best butt in the NFL based off performance, not only off size. Okay. So it's not just going to be the Vita Vea Award every year. Okay. We are going to get started here with our NFL regular season MVP award.
Wow. Starting big.
Catching the audience's attention here. And
that's a thesis statement.
He's a Baltimore Raven. Lamar Jackson wins our What Are We Talking About with Jamie Jakes MVP for the regular season award. And I think this is a pretty easy one to defend. Best passing offense and EPA per play this season. Lamar Jackson leading the way there. 4,172 passing yards, 41 touchdowns through the air, 4 interceptions, which based on a chart I saw when I was doing research for this was somehow 70th in the NFL. So allegedly 69 other QBs in the NFL this year threw over 4 interceptions. I don't know if that was entirely accurate, but that's what I saw. He had a 77 average QBR, which was second best in the NFL. Oh yeah, and he ran for 915 yards.
I guess that's all right.
I guess that's pretty all right.
I mean, it was I would say it's a really interesting season. Like, I feel like Lamar just kind of gets this trophy for the NFL every year. So it kind of makes the decision. You want to give other people a chance to win the award, but like you said, truly dominant offensive season. Like you can't have an offensive much better than that.
Obviously, you could argue that the Baltimore Ravens had a big upgrade with the running back in the backfield and Derrick Henry added to the fray. I still think it's a lot on Lamar Jackson, and I think Derrick Henry's success had a lot to do with Lamar Jackson as well, Kyle Lammert.
I would agree completely. I think it's going to be the majority consensus pick that it'll be Lamar Jackson. And I mean, of course, when you're asking, what are we talking about?
What are we talking about?
We're talking about Lamar Jackson. That
we
is
are.
The truth. He's here to stay. He's going nowhere, and he's doing great things in Baltimore. They've got a bit of a team around him, but he's still just putting the team on his back week in, week out.
Yeah, even with Justin Tucker being the worst kicker in the NFL last season.
Talk about a touchy subject.
Over there in Baltimore.
Not a feel-good story if you ask me.
Not a feel-good story. I can't wait to go back and watch the AFC North with Justin Tucker in it, that Hard Knock series, and kind of
just watch them.
Look at it with a fresh eye, maybe.
Yeah.
just see if we can spot some things out. We're going to move right on to our next award.
Oh, boy.
Boys, it's Rookie of the Year. We have one Rookie of the Year this year. It is not an offensive. It is not a defensive. It's across all rookies.
Okay.
Who was the best regular season Rookie of the Year? And Ryan Perrio and I were talking about this pre-show, and he did not see this one coming. But for regular season Rookie of the Year award, I have to give it to Mr. Hairline himself, Brock Bowers.
Interesting.
out of the Raiders. Played on a horrible offense, had basically 0 games with the actual NFL starting quarterback level-wise, right? Brock Bowers, 112 receptions for 1,194 yards as a rookie tight end. Unbelievable.
As a tight end, is impressive enough, but when you add rookie to that,
On a
that is
dog shit team.
on a horrible team, everything stacked against you. The fantasy football community at large was kind of definitely against Brock Bowers preseason because it's just like, hey, y'all are projecting him to be so good as a rookie, which never happens as a rookie tight end. Even when you look like you're 40, it still is a very difficult accomplishment to just jump in as a rookie in the NFL and be elite tight end. And he was this year, 5 touchdowns on top of it. Out of any receivers in the NFL, including wide receivers, out of all receivers in the NFL, Brock Bowers was 9th in receiving yards this season. So truly unbelievable performance out of him. I get it. You could say Jaden Daniels
Would have been my pick.
was a lot of people's picks, and he was good in the regular season. I thought he was a little bit better in the postseason. So we'll see if he wins the postseason MVP on this podcast.
Okay.
We'll find out. Or postseason rookie of the year. Brock Bowers wins it for the Raiders. Head coach of the year. We're getting right to it. I think you guys probably have a pretty good idea who I'm announcing for this one. None other than Motor City Dan Campbell. Team's gotten better every single year, just like Dan Campbell said in one of his opening speeches that went viral. Just kind of keep on increasing. It's a good gift for a reason. Dan Campbell, 15-2 this year, won the division for the 2nd time in a row. So the first time in my lifetime that the Lions won their division was last year. And then the 2nd time in my life was this year. So Dan Campbell, absolutely spectacular.
Doing incredible things that have never been done before.
Never been done before. This guy, Dan Campbell, true patriot too, obviously. Loves his Starbucks, which is an American company that we all appreciate. Of course, you have to bring up the injuries that they overcame, especially on the defense.
They will overcome.
They were still statistically one of the best defenses in the league this year, top 10 easily based off all metrics. EPA per play, I think they were top 8, top 6, if I remember correctly. Their defense was spectacular with losing Aiden Hutchinson very early in the season. We had our 7th string cornerback in for most of the playoff game that they lost, which of course doesn't count towards this award. But cornerback position was pretty banged up all season. And they overcame it with an awesome offense. And now they're going to have to overcome more adversity, losing a couple of coordinators. But they get some tasty little draft picks in compensation for Aaron Glenn as far as I know. So Dan Campbell, easy victory for me. I guess maybe one of you would say Sean Payton, maybe.
No, I don't like Sean Payton at all. I would think maybe Dan Quinn. I think that getting that Commanders defense to just stay so stout throughout the season, kind of making it easy on a rookie quarterback to come in and really just take over that division for the most part. I mean, obviously the Eagles are tough year in, year out, but really kind of getting the Commanders, to be starting to be taken a little seriously.
Got to take them
for the
seriously
first
now.
time in a long time.
It feels the same way when Bengals with Joe Burrow, when they went on their playoff run with him early on in his career, which is like, oh, you got to take the Bengals seriously now.
My honorable mention would be Kevin O'Connell, just because of what he did with Sam Darnold.
KOC.
Basically almost winning a division with Sam Darnold as your quarterback until Sam Darnold kind of unraveled in week 16.
He sure did. And 17 and 18.
Well, 17 led him to go home for week 18, but I thought that was an impressive coaching job for a Minnesota Vikings team that looked like,
for sure.
Especially when your rookie starting quarterback basically gets hurt in preseason. You're thinking, okay, this team's going to be, probably 5-11, 7-8. What's going to happen with Justin Jefferson now, because he may feel like this is kind of getting hopeless.
You get your top 10 draft pick, or your first round draft pick is already out for the season with injuries.
Yeah,
no clue
but
what you're
preseason before JJ went down, JJ McCarthy, who looks like a skeleton now, by the way. Before he went down it was reported that Sam Darnold's the guy.
He's going to get the shot.
He was going to be the guy there at least to start, and everyone kind of like laughed at it. And then when JJ went down, everyone's like, "Oh, they're done for a season." Turned it around.
Not the case.
And it's not the first time that KOC has done a good job.
Him written down as my pick as well.
Yeah, and that's why people in Minnesota, they love Cock. They love KOC. Moving on. Most disappointing and biggest surprise team of the year. Most disappointing team for me has to be the New York Football Jets.
New York Football Jets.
Just an absolute collapse. Coming off of a disappointing season last year, went 7-10. Of course, losing Aaron Rodgers in the first drive of the season. One game before I had previously purchased tickets to see Aaron Rodgers play in Dallas against the Cowboys that year. And the real story about this year was it wasn't at least directly Aaron Rodgers' fault. He was actually a pretty good quarterback this year, especially down the run. This year they go 5-12, so lose 2 more games this year compared to last year. Of course, fire Salah early in the season, a rare head coaching firing that early in the season for a team that's got everything ahead of them. Defense 19th in EPA per play this year, coming off of last year when they were 3rd best in the NFL. Of course, now have Aaron Glenn coming in. What are you guys' thoughts on my pick, and what are you guys' thoughts on Aaron Glenn in the future of the Jets?
I like Aaron Glenn. I don't know. I wouldn't have picked the Jets job for him. Like, I would have liked to see him go somewhere.
Me neither.
Somewhere where I feel like he could have a little bit more culture, where he could build a little more culture. Like, to me, Oakland would have been beautiful because
I was gonna say Vegas. Yeah, Vegas.
Vegas. Yeah, Raiders don't have as much meddling anymore now that Mark Davis is at the helm. Jacksonville perhaps would also be, because you already got kind of an offense built. You can go into that defense with fresh eyes and maybe turn it around. I mean, Jacksonville has 7 top 5 picks on that defense, somewhere in there.
You'd figure they'd be able to
play
defense at some point. Kyle Lammert, do you have a more disappointing team? Anybody?
Part of me would like to say the 49ers. Like,
yeah, it's
not a bad one.
A lot of injuries for them as well, but I mean, hey, Lions figured it out.
Yeah. Kind of a downfall Purdy this year too. Yeah. Had a really down season on a contract year.
Yeah, and rumors are that he'll get a Daniel Jones-esque kind of middle of the road 2-year opt-out deal for the
sort
team.
Of.
Yeah. So moving on to our next pick, most surprising team. And we've talked all about this team already, foreshadowing Minnesota Vikings. Win this one. Going into the season, looking at the schedule, week 18 at Detroit, I was thinking that's going to be an easy peasy, lemon squeezy win for the Detroit Lions. Probably won't even matter. Might be playing for nothing. I mean, Dan Campbell doesn't bench the boys on meaningless games like they did. Played the boys against the 49ers, speaking of which. Lions had to win that game in week 18 to take out the Minnesota Vikings. They win a lot of games this year. And of course, they're one and done in the wild card round of the NFL playoffs. But hey, this is the regular season we're talking about here. And that's why we do this award show correctly. Most surprising team, I think by far, Minnesota Vikings. You could also say going from 7-10 to 14-3 with a quarterback that nobody wanted is pretty damn impressive. Yeah,
they drafted a quarterback.
Barely. Yeah. I guess you could say maybe Broncos would be what other people would argue.
So the Chargers.
That's one of mine.
Chargers?
Yeah. They were the 6th worst team in the league last year.
They are very, I would say if this was a most improved award, maybe that would be something. But them, I mean, you got your guy, Justin Herbert. I think going into the season, there were a lot of people that were actually very optimistic about the Chargers with Harbaugh coming in from a national championship run with Michigan. I think a lot of people were pretty optimistic about the Chargers. I think a lot of more people were like, these Vikings have no fucking shot.
Agreed.
And that's where I'm coming from there. But I could definitely see why a Chargers fan would say something like that.
Another Los Angeles team could be on that list, the Rams. Like, who thought the Rams would be the one that ends up winning the division? Like,
yeah, especially 3 weeks into the season when Cooper Kupp is out, Puka Nacua out, team's not looking great, offense defensively just out of sorts. And they just find a way to win. But at the beginning of the season, I mean, you could be like, they got Puka Nacua, one of the best wide receivers in the league now in his second year. and really no massive changes
But I
on
mean,
the
just
team.
the defense. To me, what really was eye opening was their defense. Like, especially in that playoff against Minnesota, Jared Verse was an absolute weapon off the edge, and then his cohort Braden Fisk's second round pick, just a wrecking ball in the middle. Like, they have turned that defense around in maybe 1.5, 2 drafts.
Yeah, they had one of the best pressure rates in the NFL this year, out of nowhere. No one was expecting that. Still didn't play well as like a whole unit, like wasn't elite yet, but they're on their way, I would say. Maybe look out for them next year. Now, hot take alert.
Okay.
Now we're getting into the hot takes, all right? Defensive player of the year.
Hot takes with Jamie Jakes.
Take your jacket off. Hot takes with Jamie Jakes. Defensive player of the year, not even like a finalist. Not an exciting light, is on the Philadelphia Eagles defense. Give me Mr. Zach Bond, a guy who I thought was white until very recently. I heard on the Pat McAfee show. He does not claim to be a part of our tribe, but he is an absolute dog either way. 150 tackles, missed one game this year. 3.5 sacks from the linebacker position. Green Dot calling the plays. 14 pass breakups when targeted. Big Sack Zach had a 77 passer rating, which is not good. He led the second best defense in EPA per play this season in the Philadelphia Eagles defense with 2 rookie cornerbacks as 2 defensive backs rookies. And he was calling plays for this Philadelphia defense, and they were one of the best defenses in the league this year. And we've seen with the Lions what a good play caller in the huddle can do for you when Anzalone came back for the defense towards the end of the season. So I think a lot of the credit should go to Zach Bond. He's also had a great playoff so far. So we'll see what he ends up looking like in the defensive player of the playoffs. But Zach Bond, for me, best linebacker in the NFL and well-deserving of this award that usually goes to a defensive back or an edge rusher.
Bringing linebackers back. Like, it's
it matters now.
Yep.
You paint a beautiful picture. It's hard to disagree when you say it like that.
It's cyclical. I think the favorite right now, odds-on favorite, is a Watt or Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's be honest, they got a lot of snaps. They were on the field a ton on defense for both of those teams with how inefficient their offenses were at times. And I just think Zach Bond elevated the team more than any other player in the NFL this year. So that's why I'm sticking with Big Sack Zach. Moving on to our most coveted award on this YouTube channel. The Jamie Jakes Fresh Baked Cakes for Goodness Sakes Award. An award that awards the best butt in the NFL based off of shape, size, and performance. And we had a lot of good butts in the NFL this year. I got to be honest. I'm a sucker for offensive butts. So I'm going to give a couple honorable mentions here. A.J. Brown, great butt. Very effective this year. David Njoku.
Just say, if you thought the last hot take was hot.
Oh, well, this one's obvious. Honestly, this one's not that good. David Njoku, perennial, great body, great butt. Incredible. A little bit banged up this year, which is the only reason that it keeps him off of the probably champion of this award. Puka Nacua, late run for great butt of the year.
Dark horse butt.
He had a jersey pull late in the year, and the camera just zoomed right in on his butt. And so I was like, oh, I got to nominate him here for this one. But this butt was iconic this year. It was involved in the best play of the season, the most iconic play of the season, especially if this team does go on to win the Super Bowl. Saquon Barkley wins the Jamie Jakes Fresh Baked Cakes for Goodness Sakes Award for our podcast, Best Football Butt in the NFL.
The undisputed pound for pound heavyweight ass of the world
this season. Exactly. And it's immortalized on the backwards hurdle, circle triangle in unison, hit the same buttons at the same time, spin move into a jump hurdle over a defensive player, featuring the butt perfectly in his.
Take your breath away, like it was slow motion.
Absolutely.
I saw it in slow motion. and I think we were live for that, and I think we had turbo time going on. I think we had 4 TV screens going on at the same time. And every time I saw that play, I was like, oh,
incredible.
Let me take a second. I'm schwitzing here by how beautiful that is. I mean,
your child wants to know what was the night like when he was made. Saquon Barkley.
Had something to do with it.
Chardonnay, Saquon Barkley, and
I'm gonna get the fat head and put it on my ceiling in my bedroom.
reverse huddle fat head, just like he's reverse huddling you every morning when you wake up.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Hell yeah.
All right. And I don't mean to, any other honorable mentions out of you two? I feel like I covered the offense pretty well. Myles Garrett, known for a good butt defensively.
I was gonna say maybe Jared Verse, actually.
Yeah. Jared Verse got a donk on him too. All right, here we go.
Derrick Henry, honorable mention.
Derrick Henry, honorable mention.
We got to see pretty much his entire ass.
We did.
This season. It was beautiful.
Yep. We saw two cheeks.
Absolutely.
On live TV.
Double cheeked up on, I believe, a Thursday night.
I believe so, if I remember correctly. Remember it like it was yesterday. All right. Now to bring the mood down.
Oh boy.
This is the first time anyone's ever awarded this in an NFL awards show. This award I'm about to talk about. Our favorite injury of the year. We have 2 nominations. Now, going into this season, I always thought you cannot, as an NFL fan, ever cheer for an injury. Because let's be real, these guys are real human beings. They have families and friends and livelihoods that are entirely dependent on their extremities and their extremities functioning correctly. That is until this season when 2 specific injuries happened. Number 1 nominee for my favorite injury of the year award goes to Deshaun Watson's Achilles rupture. Ruptured his Achilles, got carted off, started crying. Cleveland fans booed him because it was at home, which is a special cherry on top for the regular season Achilles rupture for Deshaun Watson. Which brings me to my number 2 favorite injury of the year award goes to off-season TikTok Achilles rupture of Deshaun Watson. Not wearing a boot, dancing with his wife on a beach after the season was over. He later that day allegedly tore his Achilles, came back into the facility, which is when they found out is they ran a MRI on Deshaun's Achilles, and he didn't tell him. He kept it a secret, and he tried to get away with it. Turns out that Achilles is ruptured again. He needs another surgery, and he'll be out
indefinitely at this point.
And doesn't that mean goodbye contract, potentially?
It does.
The union's going to get involved, but it's hanging in the balance.
There are stipulations. I think they are going to get their money back, like financial-wise, because they have an insurance policy on him, I guess, for this sort of thing. But it may or may not affect the actual salary cap, which as fans is the really only thing you care about. So hopefully that second Achilles rupture with the video evidence associated with it will get the Cleveland Browns out of that contract, and they'll never have to worry about Deshaun Watson ever again. But seems like what's going to happen is they're going to be severely handicapped with that contract this year with probably a Shedeur Sanders under center. And I don't know, hopefully a better outlook for next season, but not looking good over there for the next 3-4 years in Cleveland Browns. And let's be real, their GM hasn't drafted a lot of good players since his tenure. He does a great job of re-signing players. I would say the Myles Garrett contract was brilliant, the way he did it and waited for Myles Garrett to try to decapitate a quarterback with his own helmet and then sign him that offseason. That was a pretty smart move. Got a pretty good deal on that. But they free agency wise, drafting wise, haven't hit, and they haven't had a lot of draft capital because of that contract. So a full rebuild in Cleveland. But I have to name one. And the one I'm going to name is the regular season Achilles rupture. And the reason is we have video evidence. And a lot of people were saying that's a bad thing, bad look for Cleveland Browns fans. I totally disagree. I think as a fan base, if you get to boo a man who's made your life living hell and gotten rich off of it.
Yeah. Like Cleveland basically paid him the bare minimum salary the year he was suspended so that he would only lose $1 million of $280 million.
Yep.
You can't tell me they're not complicit and also being, of this problem. Like you basically placated,
rewarded it.
Yeah,
almost.
Rewarded it basically, or found a way to basically minimize
the impact on his checkbook.
Yeah, and also just basically, just try and just duck and cover for all the negative publicity.
Yeah,
and then to have it completely come back and blow up in your face.
Yeah, but like who's suffering with that? Not the ownership. They're making hundreds of millions of dollars for the fans that are in that stadium, but every fan that's like thinking, we're making progress. Like they had they were sniffing the playoffs with Baker Mayfield, and they
won a playoff game with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
To break the 20-year streak at the time against the Steelers at Pittsburgh. Like, that's big time.
Yeah.
And they shipped that guy out of town because he didn't get along with Coach Stefanski over there. Absolutely not a spectacular move. Of course, Baker Mayfield was our podcast MVP last year. For sure, we announced that. But we I think the best part about this specific event is because the fans were booing him, he actually cried on camera. And seeing Deshaun actually be emotionally affected from a guy who claims to not be on social media, but obviously has several burner accounts or people on his behalf on burner accounts, leaving comments in comment sections. Like, I know no Cleveland Browns fan actually thinks this.
And to be so tone deaf with all the accusations, like, that's what drove me crazy is you're not guilty is not going to change. A not guilty verdict's not going to restore your reputation. You need to own the fact that I was unaware. You could say you can play the I was unaware card, and I will work on being a better person. And instead, all you were like, no, never happened. I'm innocent.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the most tone deaf thing you could possibly be.
Yeah. But that's why it's okay to cheer for Deshaun Watson rupturing his Achilles. A lot of people disagree with that. I'll disagree with you. Moving on. If we have our most favorite injury, we got to have our least favorite injury. And this one's pretty obvious. I'm wearing his jersey. Mr. Aiden Hutchinson. And I was there live. And it really sucked the energy out of the stadium in what was an absolutely spectacular performance out of the defense and the offense of the Detroit Lions at
shellacking
Jerry World. Took over the stadium like a lot of teams will. And honestly, with this administration and the amount of deportations we're seeing, I think that stadium is not going to be the same anymore going forward. I think that. I don't know. I was extremely disappointing to see Aiden Hutchinson and just how he reacted in real time. It was a real bummer. And you went out of that game being super pumped because you finally took it out on the Dallas Cowboys, but also like in the back of your head, like, fucking Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah. Of all the people,
shattered his shin in front of me. Not the best look for a team that was aspiring to be a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah.
And they end up going on, to Dan Campbell's credit, to win 15 games that season. But after you lose Aiden Hutchinson in a defensive line, which at the time you weren't super confident in to produce pressure, and losing Aiden Hutchinson there was absolutely heartbreaking. Just like every season, there was a bunch of injuries. I could rattle them off. I mean, like Tank Dell's devastating because he's going to be out for all next year.
Yeah. Honestly, Tua's concussion this year was a tough one because I remember we were live streaming that one, and I mean, talk about like taking the energy out of a room. I mean, obviously Aiden's taking the air out of that whole stadium is tough, but I mean, just sitting here on the couch watching that too, because all of the lead up to it, the several concussions in the past year, that was just a tough one to watch. Chris Godwin's ankle getting turned around, probably an honorable mention.
Who is on his way, on pace to being like fantasy football wise. Just for example, was like top 10, like probably
on fire. And then
biggest steal of the draft between him and Brian Thomas was probably Chris Godwin, was the pace he was on, and on a contract year, which you hate to see, because if he goes on to do that, he's getting franchise tag, which I don't know what the franchise, probably $30 million for a receiver for 1 year or whatever. But
for me, it's Tank Dell, just because it's 2 years of in the league, 2 years, devastating season-ending leg injury.
Yeah,
and you wonder if that's going to basically how if it's probably shortening his career, but you don't know how much.
Yeah,
it's like, how much can he really regain speed-wise?
Can you get back to that level?
Yeah,
I mean,
the sad part about it, speaking of which, coming off last year's, like you said, last year's injury, is he felt like he finally got his legs under him. That catch was an incredible catch he made. It was like a 60-yard bomb to the end zone. And the 2-3 games before that, it seemed like he finally, like, Tank Dell was back coming off of his bad fracture last year, and then just knee explodes and like out for this year, out for next year. That was definitely.
And also DeMario Overshown for the Cowboys was also devastating. That because he was your lone bright spot outside of Micah Parsons on that defense. He was, every bit like Zach Bond was for the Eagles. He was absolutely everywhere on the field, and for him just to take 2 years to get on the field, and then to have that severity a severe enough injury that people are crying in the post game.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. Like it's again, like you're saying, your legs and your arms are your assets, and after they're gone, so is your career. And they don't have Blue Cross Blue Shield
like that.
You know, you have they pay that stuff out of pocket. No insurance companies can be like, yeah, you're gonna go out there and play full contact football, we'll cover you.
Yeah.
Like there are some Lloyds of London for special cases like Jamar Chase's hands or something like that, but the human body, you don't insure a lot, and
those insurance contracts aren't cheap either.
Yeah.
All right. So moving it on to another downer of an award, the softest team in the NFL. And this one was pretty easy for me. Goes to Indianapolis Colts. A team who allows their rookie starting quarterback to think that he can just tap out in the middle of a game. A team that when Pat McAfee, who's been on your side, who is a ride or die Colts player, a guy who's going to be a ring of honor for the Colts whenever
you're
he's
ambassador, your team ambassador for all social media,
the mouthpiece for your organization, and national media wise, nobody's talking about the fucking Colts. Even when Peyton Manning was ripping around, nobody was talking about the Colts. They were still talking about the Cowboys in the national media. So you got a national media guy who's like, hey, this isn't, let's be real, like I can't defend this anymore, and says some minor things, very well thought out, non-aggressive things, and then your team turns at you and starts talking shit about you on their shitty podcasts, like even worse than this. And guys who Pat McAfee astutely pointed out have never won anything in their entire football career going back to high school. And you're talking about Pat McAfee talking shit about you into a microphone. Like that's how brazen and how fucked that organization's mentality is. And we watch games, like I get it, they won their last game or whatever, but we watch games, we're like, where's the effort out of this fucking Colts team? It was my whole viewpoint.
I mean, their owners, Jim Irsay seems like a head case, so I mean, it just all goes downhill.
He was going
there.
through it too, right, this year. Like some scary, like I think like potential overdose that was kind of quietly talked about in
wild shit.
Yeah, but I mean, the Irsays are the team that took the Colts out of Baltimore. Like they're not. It's not like they've, that he's been in Indianapolis his whole career. They basically backed up trucks in the middle of the night and took Baltimore to Indianapolis, to avoid facing a fan base. So they're not. It's basically
they're not known for their courage.
Yeah, it's just mind blowing because again, if you're the GM. That's got to be the biggest gut punch to watch your third overall draft pick, who's supposed to be the leader of your team, on a game time drive. Like this was a game. They were going down the field. It was like fourth down.
Yeah, it wasn't like garbage time.
Yeah, like they were in the game, and
where you
literally just and you just knew right then that that's not your guy. Like that's not my leader because Baker Mayfield would have never.
No,
he would have been with a broken arm. He'd still be. He
literally played with a broken arm.
Yeah, he would literally. He'd literally go back over there. I got this.
Yeah.
To not see that out of your third round, extremely gifted, physical gifts outside the moon with this guy.
Like he played 3 games last year. His season-long highlight film looked like 10 seasons of highlights. Yeah. Like it was unbelievable what he can do.
He looks like an NFL blitz player. Like he looks like he is
the 360 spike.
Yeah.
But he's not. I don't see it. I don't see it working out, and I do see them bringing in some competition for them in Indianapolis, which brings us to our bounce back player of the year. So we have a bounce back player of the year. We have a comeback player of the year. Come back from injury, bounce back from adversity is how we're doing it. Okay, so we don't have to argue about if an injury is more important than somebody being more improved or most improved award, which is what the bounce back player of the year award. And that award goes to a man we've talked way too much about already, Mr. Sam Darnold. Yep. From the ashes, drafted to the New York Jets. You had no chance to start from step one and kind of gets thrown around the league. Everyone kind of likes him, but nobody likes him so much that they're going to re-sign him as even a backup.
Like the ghost that he saw on the field when he was a quarterback of the Jets, he just kind of like sauntered in and out of several organizations.
And it was like positive though. They're like, this guy, we like him, but no GM was like, oh, let's give this guy $10 million and see if he can start the.
No one was giving him the reins.
No, nobody was. And day one, reportedly, Sam Darnold was the guy in Minnesota, even with the rookie, the high draft capital rookie coming into town, national champion coming into town.
Kevin O'Connell knows what he's doing when it comes to quarterbacks.
Oh yeah, obviously. I mean, he turned the Pastronaut into Don Shula out there or whatever. I don't know. Anyways, so Sam Darnold, we've talked ad nauseum about the Vikings and their performance this year. And as a Lions fan, you kind of gotta tip your cap when you see it, despite their fan base being absolute trash, pigs, the wags on the team I'm not a fan of as well. So anyways, I don't like them, but you gotta give them props when due. Okay, which brings us to comeback player of the year, man who come back from injury to improve this year. This guy was one of the favorites to win it last year. I think rightfully so. He didn't deserve it, so he didn't win it. And that is why this year he rightfully deserves it, because he actually played this year. Mr. Damar Hamlin, coming back from the grave to be a starting level safety this year. He contributed last season. He came back, but he didn't start.
Yeah.
So if you don't start, you can't be a comeback because you haven't come back yet. And that's why I think you didn't want to give it to him last year. And this year, you definitely want to give it to him. Yeah. Impactful player for a team that made it deep into the playoffs. And I think so. I think deserving of like literally the most impactful injury somebody could get. A guy I think who could have maybe pushed him on this one would have been a guy like Nick Chubb, but he breaks his foot late in the season. The Cleveland offense was pretty poor all year. Offensive line play, the worst that Nick Chubb has seen in his whole career. So, and let's be honest, like he looked fast. I think in the Hard Knocks, it leaked that he hit like 21.5 miles per hour on a pick six play. Yeah. But that's the fastest he's run. So, he's still got a little bit of speed. His strength is still there. Obviously, he's strong as fuck. You can see that once he finally gets contacted. But a guy hopefully who can bounce back next year. I think he's gonna be 29. Yeah. So coming off another fracture. But Damar Hamlin, I think by far and away my comeback player of the year, guy who came back from injury the best.
I would honorably mention Joe Burrow with his mysterious arm injury. To sling it for almost 5,000 yards
on another dog shit team.
On a team that basically had not much to play.
He's got two good receivers.
Two elite receivers. Yeah. Have you seen the amount of money T. Higgins is projected to make this year? But to be fair to you, bad offensive line, right? Good offense. Also, a lot of those numbers kind of propped up from how bad the defense was this year.
Yeah. Talk about bad luck. Just basically, like you're one play away from being a Chiefs and you commit pass interference to basically seal your fate. Like they had a lot of bad luck. Like if you want to add an award next year for just
a bad luck award,
worst luck.
I think Detroit would win
best
that.
Luck and luckiest team, like whatever team was like luckiest, like lucked out to win. Like we don't know how they did it, but somehow these guys just gritted it out.
We'll thumbnail that. We'll put that into next year's award ceremony. And Ryan's gonna love this award. The Dirtiest Player of the Year award goes to Houston Texans Azeez Al-Shaair for decapitating on live television a lot of kids' heroes, Sunshine himself, Trevor Lawrence, for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Talent.
Trying to ruin Brian Thomas's rookie season, didn't. Unsuccessful, and he did so in the name of Allah. And he tweeted that. I didn't say that. That's just what he tweeted. Ryan, what do you say? Defend your man. You can't.
I get the intent. Like his intent wasn't to injure; it was to hurt. Like you're but that's what you're supposed to do as a linebacker. You want to intimidate them and I feel like the NFL definitely has to get these slide rules for quarterbacks because Patrick Mahomes. That's another reason I brought it up. Absolutely, Jim Broing everybody because he'll fake slide, then he goes for 20 yards. A 20-yard scamper.
I think they are looking into making it a challengeable offense or an offense that you can review with the referee assist, just to be like, hey, he tried to pull up on it. It was a late slide, but yeah, the late slide. Whenever they made it to where the the start of the slide, the initiation of the slide
Yeah.
is where you were marked down instead of like when your butt hit, all the quarterbacks started sliding late. So I think the simple fix to this is you just, whenever you go back to the old rule, wherever your butt touches is when that's where the ball's spotted.
Yeah.
I think that would be the easiest way.
It's where your knee slides, where your knee,
Right. Or
wherever-
whatever your first thing to hit the, whatever the first
Mhm.
thing to hit the turf is, that's when you're down. And I think
I
it'll,
also think there should be forward progress. Like if you stop as a quarterback for a certain amount of time and you're not touched, that's still considered forward progress for
Yeah.
the quarterback.
Yeah.
Like when Patrick Mahomes just sits there and just kind of then skirts out of bounds, like that should be forward progress right where he stopped because
Yeah.
he just stopped moving.
yeah. When you drop your hips, right, as a quarterback,
Yeah.
it's not a juke move that you're doing. You're pretending to slide or thinking about it. Worst fans. Oh, of course, Kirby Joseph. A lot of people will say is a dirty player, but I wholeheartedly disagree. Worst fans in the NFL. That's pretty easy.
Philly.
Philadelphia Eagles.
Without a doubt.
Philadelphia Eagles. A man who had a job whose business primarily sold software to make you less racist. Their websites, the website says we have virtual reality software that we sell to help you identify your own personal biases. So a very politically correct business in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which is interesting, surprising and interesting. That's what his job was. And he, of course, was filmed openly calling a Green Bay Packers fan a DC and not a defensive coordinator. Openly, a man literally had a body camera on.
See you next Tuesday.
And
Hard T.
and then the next game, a YouTuber, brilliant move by the way, went to a Philadelphia Commanders game dressed as a Commanders fan. He's not an actual Commanders fan. He's pretending to be, and just videotaped himself getting harassed beyond imagination, like actually touched, actually like
having his stuff taken from him.
Theft. And that's just par for the course for the Philadelphia Eagles.
For the fan base that threw batteries at Santa Claus.
Yeah.
What do you expect?
Exactly.
The D battery should be in the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. I feel like it has been at more sporting events in the city of Philadelphia than players.
Just name it Duracell Stadium at this point. That one's easy. There's rumors about other fan bases that do certain things to certain players' wives, but there's only one team that's been actually filmed doing
year in, year out
atrocious things.
Undercover filmed.
And that was our last regular season award, which brings us to our postseason awards.
Season it was.
Our postseason MVP for our podcast is none other than running back Saquon Barkley. Running back Saquon Barkley, 442 yards, 6.7 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns, willing the Philadelphia Eagles into a Super Bowl with the help of the Philadelphia defense.
Without him, that Rams game is a totally different
outcome
because they tried to give that a game away. Like Jalen Hurts definitely almost gave that game away.
I was going to say, I mean, the Eagles are a good team through and through on their offense, on their defense, but Saquon's just been a spark. Whenever they need something done, like to start a game, you just take the first handoff of the game to the house. That's a spark. He's willing these guys to go the distance.
I guess it takes it off Jalen Hurts' plate to be the running back.
For sure.
Because I think last year he took on all the offense, and there's still times where you watch him and he just sits back there with the world crashing around him. It's like, what are you doing, bro? Like, are you you gonna throw this ball away? No, you're gonna take a sack for 30-yard loss. Cool, good job, thank you. It's got to be maddening as a fan, like a real fan, to watch somebody just sit there with all the gifts of the world. Like, nah, I'm just gonna wait for the next play.
It's crazy. To end on that note, statistics. I think a sack should count against a quarterback's passing yards. And that's just something I think about. Anyways, moving on.
It used to.
In college, it counts as rushing yards for the quarterback. Anyways, rookie of the postseason can be offensive, can be defensive. And this one, I think, is pretty clear to me. Maybe controversial. I think maybe some people would say maybe on the defensive side, there was more valuable players or better players, I guess. But Jaden Daniels, just coming alive. I mean, he was alive in the regular season, but postseason was just insane. 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, 822 yards through the air with rushing yards too.
I hate to say it because I know of your fandom,
Yeah,
but this motherfucker went into Detroit
Legit.
against the
loudest
#1
stadium
team
in the NFL.
NFC and didn't put up a punt.
Yeah.
Insane.
Unbelievable. And just stepped on the throats of the Detroit Lions. Of course, they get an injury. Amik Robertson goes out off the jump,
cuff, yeah.
which of course helps. But to Jaden's credit, he took advantage of it when Sam Darnold wasn't able to. Right?
Sure.
When a guy like Sam Darnold folded, Jaden stepped up, and Lions kept scoring and kept scoring and kept scoring.
Sure.
And Jaden's like, all right, I'm just going to go score
It's
again.
going to be a shootout. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Fuck it. We ball.
Just to watch a rookie play within the framework, like, no, okay, here's what I can do, and not try to do more than that. Like, sometimes when you're a rookie, like, you would think that maybe he would overthink it in either analysis paralysis.
Cool as a cucumber.
Forgive my ignorance. Are there any other X factor players on that Washington offense?
Terry McLaurin is perennially a guy who shows up on everybody's most underrated list. Brian Robinson got shot in the ass twice and then came back and started as a rookie. He's pretty good. They're off the crux. They have weapons, but the crux of their offense is their offensive line.
Offensive linemen are a weapon.
Horrible. Their offensive line is bad, and Jane Daniels did a fantastic job getting the ball out of his hand quick, which is a testament to the coaching staff as well.
Sure.
But I mean, there's a lot of coaching staffs around the world who have been trying to get a lot of quarterbacks to Deshaun Watson.
Look at the Eagles. Look at the Eagles trying to get Jalen Hurts on time.
Throw the fucking ball away. I mean, I get you get the best offensive line.
Like Bobby Slowick took a step back with the Texans. Like you watch CJ Stroud, and that's the CJ Stroud you saw in the Michigan game.
Yeah.
Where he was just not comfortable, or Russell Wilson with the Steelers. Like you watched a lot.
Takes big sacks.
Yeah.
2 awards left.
Wow.
Defensive
Beautiful
MVP,
awards.
Coach of the Year for the playoffs. Defensive playoff MVP is your regular season defensive player of the year. None other than Big Sack Zach Bond, the opposite side of the Philadelphia Eagles from Saquon. Not a white guy, not an exciting white, is a stud. 26 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 fumble recoveries, 1 interception, and 2 pass breakups. And that's not giving him credit for the strip that an actual exciting white helped him strip the ball out to make it to the Super Bowl. Big Sack Zach, most underrated player of all time. I imagine in this year's NFL 100 that's voted on the players, Zach Spawn's going to be like a top 25 guy this year. He was unbelievable for the Philadelphia defense in the playoffs and clutch as all get out. My defensive MVP.
I will say this about Zach Bond too: is he also changed positions.
Mm-hmm.
He was a defensive end,
edge rusher
in New Orleans,
Yep.
and they just put him at linebacker. I would
pretty good move.
I would give an
worked out all right.
I would give an honorable mention to Jared Verse to go into Philadelphia, talk noise like I'm coming, and for him to absolutely arrive and just basically keep the Eagles fans holding their breath because he was back there just.
Yeah, they win that game. It might be a different, or definitely be defensive MVP in the playoffs.
But he absolutely terrorized the Vikings. That fumble recovery where he just basically torched, and he actually caught Saquon from behind. Like we also forget on one of Saquon Barkley's long runs, Jared Verse is the guy that ran him down.
It's pretty crazy. Which brings us to our playoff coach of the year. And he'll be coaching again in the Super Bowl this year, none other than Andy Reid. Of course, I guess you could give it to Sirianni with the way he, I would say, bounced back from adversity this year with the criticism he was getting from the Philadelphia fans and the media, and the national media was not on Nick Sirianni's side at all this season. And just casually goes on a run, wins every single game, quarterback struggling, doesn't matter. Defense is playing ball. We got this guy Saquon. We're going to keep on giving him the ball. We're going to keep things simple.
Big Dom's doming around.
Big Dom's doming around in the sidelines over there as
Sirianni's being Sirianni.
Sirianni's being Sirianni, but Andy Reid's being Andy Reid.
Yeah.
And with a team who just super professionally just won the AFC, just went on an absolute tear, got the 1 seed, sat their guys week 18.
And what seemingly felt like throughout the season like an off year.
Felt they frauds all regular season. We said it, but they, to their credit, just kept on figuring out ways to win in the regular season. No rust whatsoever, just jumped right back into it. Were absolutely dominant in every single game that they played in their playoff run. And this is a season where they lose to even get the 1 seed, right? A season they lose their 2 best weapons on offense, maybe 3 best. So Pacheco, they lose basically for the whole season. He was never the same, still isn't the same. Kareem Hunt's looking better than him right now. And we know that wasn't the case when Pacheco was being Pacheco last season or even early on this season. Of course, Rashee Rice goes down with a season-ending injury pretty early on, which would have been devastating to basically any other offense in the NFL. Have a rookie Xavier Worthy who's not ready to be the number 1 yet, who's thrust into basically the number 1 role because Hollywood Brown also goes down with a SC injury in the preseason, who's just now coming back. And now all of a sudden, look how Xavier Worthy's looking. Look how the offense is humming. That's the adversity they faced all regular season, and that's why I think he's deserving of the postseason head coach of the year award.
That Buffalo game was a coaching masterclass.
Yep, brilliant.
They absolutely pants Buffalo. And even though Buffalo had a chance at a last second, that game never felt like Buffalo was in it. Like there were so many times that Josh Allen was throwing under duress. They brought blitzes at the most opportune times when they weren't expecting it. They looked to Chris Jones lined up a defensive end 11 times, got 7 QB pressures. They just, and then offensively, Buffalo couldn't stop Patrick Mahomes rolling right. Like absolutely, 50 yards rushing, just going to his right, and 2 touchdowns for Patrick Mahomes against the Buffalo Bills, who probably love Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Then tried to go to that push with Josh Allen one too many times. It absolutely just.
James Cook wasn't getting his hands low enough. He was keeping
James
it
Cook
Christian.
getting the ball. James Cook should have had the ball.
Well, yeah. He's also averaging like 70 yards per carry. So
yeah. Like it was just you could just see the difference in the coaching. Like Andy Reid's pulse was just like, no, we got something for you.
Yep.
Like, and just to absolutely, and Patrick Mahomes ran twice. That's a Patrick Mahomes thing of being told, oh, Josh Allen's the running QB. Okay, sure. Let's see. Why don't you let me?
Sure about that?
Yeah. And he just scampered for 20 yards and then another 40-yard run where he just basically ran forever.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like much at the time. It's like the Detroit offense. It just moves so efficiently down the field. You'll just like blink and there'll be 25 yards. It'll be 3 plays, 25 yards.
First drive of the game, the
field.
First drive, they didn't have a third down. Like they literally went.
Yeah, we thought they did, but they didn't.
Yeah,
we were streaming. I was like, did they have a third down? Nope, they didn't. It was like maybe there was that one that Mahomes converted, but it was a 2nd and 2 or whatever. Yeah, I think Andy Reid just coaches his pants off when it matters.
All timer.
He's out there playing Catan while everybody else is playing chess.
Yeah, yeah, he's playing 3D Catan. Yeah, he's got the expansion packs.
if it was a game of Monopoly, he has Boardwalk and Park Place.
Yeah,
and you're all just basically 2 rolls away from
everyone else is playing along with him. Andy Reid's leading the way. Yeah. So that was our first annual NFL Honors Award ceremony. Thank you all for watching. We've had an absolutely spectacular season. We will not be live for the Super Bowl. We have a lot of great content coming up. This encyclopedia is going we are going to go through every single position group in this draft class and give a top 5, top 6, top 7 NFL guys. We're going to cut it off at hopeful guys, I would say.
Free agency's coming up.
Free agency's coming up. We got a lot of good content with NFL Insider James as well. We'll rope in for the college football stuff, which I'm really looking forward to. So stay tuned with us in the post-season, going up into the preseason, and we're going to have a great time again next season. Probably be our best podcast year so far.
You definitely want to subscribe.
I'd say if you're new, please subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and tell us if you think I got something dead wrong, if I overlooked somebody. I don't think I did. I think it was a perfect NFL Honors Award ceremony.
People are saying.
A lot of people are saying that.
Best bet ever.
That's what everyone's telling me.
We set the bar really high. We set the bar really high for 2025.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to really step it up. Maybe make it get some pyro.
Yeah, we have some like confetti. Maybe we'll just have some confetti like rain down at the end.
For every reward. Yeah, I like that. Maybe I'll
Maybe
put it
some
in.
like Nickelodeon slime. We could have the slime cast.
Put it in in post. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.